The deadliest dungeon in the Empire did not ask Rowan Vale to survive. It asked him to build. Everyone called Gravemire a grave with doors. Adventurers entered for gold and glory. Most returned as Bonzaran was not an adventurer. He was a repairman. That was the polite word. In truth, he fixed walls, patched roofs, repaired wells, carried stone, measured beams, and accepted whatever coins people threw after pretending not to need him. His talent was knowing when a door would fall. That was why the Survey Guild hired him to inspect the entrance hall after 3 elite parties disappeared. Captain Maros laughed when Rowan arrived with a toolbox instead of a weapon. "The dungeon kills knights," Maros said. "What will you do?" "Repair it to death." The other guild members laughed. Rowan looked at the cracked stone arch rising from the swamp. The gate breathed black mist. "I was hired to check structural damage," he said. "You were hired because you are cheap." "That too were." Maros tossed him a lantern. "Stay behind us. If something screams, do not be the slowest." Rowan followed them inside. Gravemire was not like other ruins. Ruins were dead. This place listened. The walls were black stone, wet roots, and old bones. Blue mushrooms glowed in the cracks. The floor shifted, just enough to remind him the dungeon knew where he stood. Rowan knelt beside a broken support column. "Interesting," he murmured. Maros looked back. "What?" This column did not break from impact. It grew wrong. Stone does not grow. This stone does. A whisper passed through the corridor. Finally, Rowan froze. A small creature crawled from a crack. It looked like a lizard made from moss and bone. One front leg dragged uselessly. Maros raised his sword. "Dungeon vermin." Rowan stepped in front of him. "It is injured. It is a monster. It can be both." The creature hissed, then collapsed. Naran opened his toolbox, tore a strip from his sleeve, and splintered the tiny leg with 2 narrow pieces of wood. The guild stared. Maros grabbed his shoulder. "Are you insane?" "No," Rowan said. "I am busy." The creature blinked. Then it pressed its forehead against his wrist. A green mark appeared on Rowan's skin. The dungeon trembled. Something enormous exhaled. A voice entered Rowan's mind. Caretaker recognized. The corridor doors slammed shut. Maros cursed. "What did you do?" Rowan stared at the glowing mark. "I think I fixed the wrong thing." The first attack came from the ceiling. 3 pale spiders dropped into the corridor, each one the size of a horse. The guild members fought well. For 12 seconds. Then panic broke their formation. One seized a swordsman. Another spat acid across Maros's shield. The third lunged at Rowan. The injured moss lizard jumped between them. It was tiny. It was brave. It would die. Rowan moved before he thought. He threw powdered lime from his toolbox into the spider's eyes. The creature shrieked. Rowan swung his hammer into a loose wall pin he had noticed earlier. The entire damaged arch collapsed. Stone crushed the spider. The corridor went silent except for dripping acid and Maros breathing too hard. The moss lizard crawled onto Rowan's boot. Maros stared at him. "You dropped the ceiling." It was already unstable. You killed a Class 4 dungeon spider with bad masonry. With correct masonry. The sealed door ahead opened, not fully. Just enough for a warm breeze to escape. The voice returned. Repair the heart. Rowan frowned. I do not repair hearts. The dungeon answered with a sound like grinding stone. Learn, the next chamber should have been a boss. Instead, it was a village. Or what remained of one. Stone houses, broken bridges, a shattered fountain, burned gardens under fungus light, dozens of monsters hid in the ruins, goblin children with white hair, blind molefolk, a deer-headed woman holding a cracked water jar, stone-backed turtles carrying baskets, things from warning posters, all watching him as if he were both knife and candle. Maros whispered, "This is impossible." A goblin child stepped forward. It held out a broken wooden wheel. Rowan looked at the wheel, then at the child. "You need a cart repaired." The child nodded. Maros made a strangled sound. Rowan set down his toolbox. For the next hour, the Royal Guild watched while Rowan fixed a monster cart, a bridge rail, a bone water pipe, and the hinge of a ribcage door. With every repair, the green mark on his wrist spread into a pattern of roots and stone. The monsters did not kneel. They gathered. That felt more dangerous. An old turtle creature approached and placed a cracked, black crystal in Rowan's hand. The dungeon translated its rumbling voice inside his skull. Heartstone sick, village dying, adventurers break course sleeps, caretaker build. Rowan looked around. This was not a monster nest. It was home, above ground. Humans called dungeons evil because monsters attacked invaders. Down here, monsters called humans storms with swords. Maros stepped toward the crystal. That is a dungeon core fragment. Give it to me. The monsters hissed. Rowan closed his hand around it. No. Maros hardened. Do not forget who hired you. You hired a repairman, Rowan said. I found repairs. The captain drew steel. Then I will collect payment another way. The dungeon doors closed behind him. For the first time, Rowan smiled. I would not do that. Maros attacked anyway. He was faster and trained by royal duelists. Duran had a hammer. And a village that did not want to die. The deer-headed woman knocked Maros's blade aside. Goblin children threw smoke mushrooms. The moss lizard bit Maros's ankle with heroic incompetence. Rowan swung once. The hammer struck the captain's wrist. His sword fell. Maros staggered back. You are choosing monsters over your own kind. Rowan looked at the ruined homes. I am choosing the people who asked me to fix something, instead of steal it. The dungeon mark burned. New skill awakened. Blueprint sight. The world shifted. Rodran saw cracks, weak points, pressure lines, hidden tunnels, sleeping roots, broken enchantments, and one glowing path beneath the village. At the end of that path pulsed something sick and red. The heart. Maros saw the light in Rowan's eyes and stepped back. What are you? Rowan lifted his toolbox. Still cheap. He ordered the monsters to bind Maros and the surviving guild members, not kill them. Then he followed the glowing path down. The deeper chambers were wounded. Doors hung open like broken jaws. Trap rooms misfired. Healing pools had turned black. Mana roots were blocked by iron spikes. Rowan removed the spikes one by one. Each time, the dungeon groaned in relief. The moss lizard followed him proudly on its splintered leg. Rowan named it Pip. Pip accepted this as if titles were natural. In the heart chamber, Rowan found the core. It was not a jewel, it was a tree. A black tree growing upside down from the ceiling. Roots wrapped around a beating red crystal. Iron spears pierced the trunk. Human banners hung from them. Names were carved into the metal. Conquest teams, royal parties, heroes. Each had stabbed the dungeon heart and taken a piece. It was not evil. It was infected. Rowan climbed the roots and began removing the spears. The first burned his hand. The second whispered promises of gold. The third showed him the capital, naming him hero if he claimed the core. He kept working. Above, the village shook as Maros escaped his bindings. The captain reached the heart chamber with blood on his face and greed in his eyes. "Step away," Maros said. Rowan pulled another spear free. "No." Maros lifted a fire scroll. "This dungeon is worth more than any city. With that core, the king could build an army. The dungeon already has people. It has monsters." Rowan looked down at Pip, who hissed from behind a root. "Careful, he is sensitive." Maros activated the scroll. Fire filled the chamber. Dotran saw the pressure lines a second before the blast landed. He struck the root above him. Sap burst out, black and cold, swallowing the flames. Maros lunged with a hidden knife. Pip leapt. The tiny lizard hit his face with all the force of a wet glove. It was enough. Rowan dropped from the tree and slammed his hammer into the floor. The chamber answered. Chains of living root burst from the ground and wrapped around Maros. They lifted him upside down. Rowan walked to the last iron spear. This one was larger than the rest. At its head was the royal seal. He pulled. The spear did not move. The dungeon whispered. Cost required. Rowan knew what it wanted. Not blood. Not mana, a promise. He placed his burned hand against the black tree. "I will not claim you," he said. "I will repair what I can. I will build where I must. I will not turn your people into trophies." The royal spear cracked. Rowan pulled it free. The heartstone erupted with green light. Every chamber in Gravemire woke at once. The fountain burst with clean water. Dead gardens opened. Doors repaired themselves. Bridges rose. Healing pools cleared. The monsters cried out, not in rage, but relief. The upside-down tree lowered one branch and touched Rowan's forehead. Dungeon pact complete. Caretaker authority granted. Domain seed awakened. Rowan felt the entire dungeon breathe through him. Every corridor, every broken room, every frightened child, every monster, waiting to see if this human would become another invader. He opened his eyes. Maros stared at him, hanging upside down. "You could become rich," the captain whispered. "Famous, noble. Give the core to the crown, and they will make you lord of anything." Rowan looked at the restored village, glowing beyond the chamber. I already found work. By sunset, the dungeon entrance changed. The arch straightened. The swamp mist cleared. A sign appeared above the gate, carved in living stone. Gravemire Sanctuary. 3 days later, the first army arrived. Royal banners. Siege mages or harvesters. Maros stood beside them with one arm in a sling and hatred in his eyes. At the front rode Duke Alvin. He read the new sign and laughed. A sanctuary? How adorable. Rowan stood at the gate, wearing a patched coat, burned gloves, and a tool belt. Pip sat on his shoulder like a tiny dragon who believed he owned the world. Duke Alvin raised his voice. By royal decree, all dungeon cores belong to the crown. Step aside, repairman. Behind Rowan, monsters gathered in the entrance hall, not kneeling, standing. Turtle workers, goblin children, stone-backed beasts, blind molefolk, spider mothers, root guardians, and creatures no surface book had named correctly. Rowan felt their fear. He felt the dungeon's heartbeat. Then blueprint sight spread across the battlefield. He saw weak armor straps, overloaded spell cannons, siege wheels resting on soft swamp soil, a bridge ready to collapse. A battlefield was just a building trying to fall down. Rowan lifted his hammer. No, the Duke sighed. Kill the monsters. Leave the human alive. He may still be useful. The army charged. Gravemire opened its doors, not one, all of them. Corridors unfolded where walls had been. Trap rooms turned sideways. Roots rose under siege engines. Stone bridges dropped royal knights into humiliating mud pits. Monsters fought, but not like beasts. They fought like citizens defending homes. Rowan walked through the chaos, repairing damage as it happened. A cracked wall became a shield. A fallen beam became a bridge. A broken enemy cannon became a smoke planter. Duke Alvin stared as his assault turned into embarrassing architecture. Maros broke through the front line and charged Rowan with a spear. You are wasting power on monsters. Rowan blocked with his hammer. I am building something. Out of vermin. Out of neighbors. Maros screamed and thrust. Pip bit his nose. Agon history had themes. Rowan struck the ground. The living dungeon opened a small cell beneath Maros and dropped him inside. The army finally surrendered at nightfall. Duke Alvin was sent back with a signed repair invoice. Ran charged double for arrogance. Next morning, sunlight entered Gravemire for the first time in centuries. Through mirrors, water channels, and stonework. Rowan, designed with molefolk engineers and goblin apprentices. The village gathered beneath the restored fountain. Pip climbed onto Rowan's head. The old turtle creature placed a garland of silver leaves around Rowan's neck. Caretaker King, the dungeon whispered. Rowan frowned. No king, the monsters murmured in confusion. He pointed to repaired homes, clean water, open workshops, and gardens starting to grow. King's own. Builders maintain. Pip chirped. The dungeon considered this. Caretaker builder. Better. That was when the deepest door in Gravemire opened. No one had repaired it. No one had touched it. It stood beneath the heart chamber. sealed by chains older the dungeon itself. From behind it came a polite knock once, twice, 3 times. Every monster went silent. Even the dungeon heart stopped beating. For 1 second, Rowan picked up his hammer. A voice whispered from the sealed dark, "Little builder, you repaired the roof of our prison." Pip hid under Rowan's collar. The old turtle creature trembled. Dryon looked at the restored village, the frightened monsters, and the living dungeon that had asked him for a home, not a war. Then he looked at the sealed door. He had entered Gravemire as a cheap repairman. Now an army had failed to take what he protected. The dungeon had a village. The monsters had names. And something beneath them had noticed the roof was no longer broken. Rowan tightened his grip on the hammer. "I charge extra for prison work," he said. From behind the door, something ancient laughed, and the sanctuary lights turned red.